Cordovez with Adam Schoenfeld, semi-live from Bellagio. You're familiar with the Roy Hobbs story, The Natural?
Yes, I am.
For people that aren't, we've got the Kirk Morrison story. Kirk, as a young gun...
Robert Redford will play Kirk Morrison?
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe, or Kirk Morrison was a young gun. In the '98 World Series, he won a bracelet. And then he left the poker world completely, moved to New Zealand, and wasn't gambling at all. Then he just kind of resurfaced and finished second on the World Poker Tour main event, 25K event, won like $2 million. And we talk a lot about the old days and the new days, and here's a guy who not only played in the old days and now the new days, but in between was just off on the beaches of, the South Pacific.
You're familiar with the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth?
No.
David Bowie? It's like he just fell to earth.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Good guy. And I have to respect the fact that guys are struggling and trying to win stuff, and this guy just pops in off the beaches of New Zealand and wins like one of the biggest prizes in poker.
He wins it like
and a
it's
bunch
nothing.
of other stuff
like
too.
It's nothing.
And a bunch of other tournaments.
Yeah, he's back in swing.
World Series things. So obviously a big talent and interesting guy to talk to. So Adam and I keep boring people to death with our talk of the old days and the changes, but we've seen the gradual evolution. What's fascinating is that you were a rising star and a very successful star in the late 90s. You went to New Zealand, you really disappeared from the poker scene, and then you hit the ground running again and have had a lot of success. But you really have seen the changes. I mean, you've missed the evolutionary period.
Yeah, Diego, Adam, it's, I feel like a dinosaur. You know, I'm coming back.
Time capsule.
That's it.
Or
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I come right back into it, and I had no idea how big it's gotten. I had no idea. And I come back, and I just thought I'd just be like normal, jump on a bike, just run over everybody, do what I do. And that was a shock. I just couldn't do that.
You can't run over these kids
No,
now.
heck, they're like I said, I turned into an 80-year-old man overnight. I always, I sit down and pick up those 80-year-old men, I used to play with, so I just take from him. All of a sudden, I'm that guy, And
You're the guy holding the big blind every time.
That's it. So that was a bit rough, to start with, and it took me a while to get back in there, and I finally took my panties off and started swinging again.
So how do you adjust? You re-steal? You play back at them?
I just let them do all the betting. I let these kids just let them fire, and I just sit and wait.
So you've gone from being the bully to using kind of anti-bully tactics.
Yeah.
Not all trappers wear fur caps, Steve. Little expression I made up. Me and Doyle came up with that.
But it's fascinating because we talk about kind of the superficial changes in poker, the fact that poker players now have fans and groupies, and that
I
blows
just can't believe it.
my mind.
I think I've told this story before, Diego. When I saw Daniel Negreanu again. He's the one who basically got me back into this. And I saw him down in Australia, and I was at the Crystal Room, which is a very tough room to get into. It's a very elite room. And I was like, how the heck did he get in there? This is before I even knew it was gotten big. And the first, we go in there, and the Australian Open's going at the same time. And I walk in there and see Hingis and Sharapova. I'm like, wow, this is kind of nice. And then we sit down, and Federer and James Blake walk in at the same time, and they go straight up to Daniel, and they ask for his autograph, and I just started laughing. I said, you guys got to be kidding. You know who this kid is? I said, we were drinking cheap red wine 9-10 years ago for, $2, $4 in Compton, at the Crystal Park Casino. And I was a bit flabbergasted, so that's why I knew poker was
From
big.
the Crystal Park to the Crystal Room.
That's right.
A long way. That's a long way.
It's a long way.
That's going to be the Kirk Morrison story.
Yeah. No, but the game it has changed. It's just... I think Mike Sexton wrote an article many years ago in Card Player talking about he could count the number of players on one hand that he can actually win a tournament. Mm-hmm. And now I look down and eight of the 10 players that you sit down have a potential to win. There's a big difference between actually just cashing and winning a tournament. And a lot of these kids now, they know how to win. And one, because they're completely fearless, or that's the main thing, is because they're fearless and they're not afraid to win. So.
I worry about that. Not that you're old. I don't know exactly how old you are.
35.
Yeah, you're on the cusp of youngness. I'm a few years older than you, and I worry that now that I've been through life, that I've lost that fearlessness. That even like 10 years ago, I was splashing around big moves with crap, and now I've I better just fold.
You want what you do?
What?
Start drinking.
Yeah.
At the table.
Well, you're already halfway there.
Yeah.
You don't need to convince Adam.
Yeah, that and the Ambien. Well, we all
Isn't the
played
Ambien counterproductive or not? when
Well,
you're playing.
usually I take it after I play. But
Right.
for example, like last night, we all played till 4 o'clock. We all made it through yesterday in the main event. And so I came back here. I took Ambien, and it's one of these controlled release. So now it's like still coursing through my veins. So if I have any short-term memory lapses, just pretend. Just keep talking. Just keep talking. Yeah, no, I won't fall asleep. I just won't remember anything that I'm supposed to say.
I'm fascinated by the strategic changes because all the other changes are fun, but that's what happens anytime something gets hot. But Chip Chitt was on the show the other day, and I was talking to him about the first time I met him when he was just running over all these old timers who didn't know what was hitting them because kind of tight was right, and a lot of guys were grinding out just kind of playing ABC, and then this new wave of younger guys and Daniel and yourself, for examples, kind of hit the ground, and these guys didn't know what was going on. I remember reading the reports on the internet, what reports they had when Daniel won his first bracelet, and these guys were saying, who is this young kid, and he's playing all these hands, and what a lucky guy he is. He was a little ahead of his time. I mean, so was everyone. And now, guys like Daniel and yourself, you still play the hands, but you're playing small ball, and it's not just a pure aggression strategy, which a lot of guys are playing.
Yeah, I'm playing. Well, when I first came back, I didn't play that many hands. Now I've gone back to playing a lot of hands, but I'm smooth calling with aces now. Almost all the time. I very rarely do a re-raise pre-flop. It's a lot of these players play so bad post-flop. So I'm just sitting and waiting. That's what of course that'll hurt me every once in a while. Protect your hand. Mumbo shmumbo. This new age, the way these kids are playing, I'm just trying to do everything post-flop. Get them to that flop, and hopefully I can manipulate things from there.
And if you do with aces or smooth call, one raise maybe, and then someone's going to try the squeeze play from the blinds, and then now you'll get
hello.
Yeah,
there you go.
We had this yesterday at my starting table. There were 3 guys wearing Nordic Bet poker shirts, and I was like, this is going to be horrendous because they're all Norwegian. I'm like, they're all going to be super good, but luckily they weren't. Well, there was one kid who had part of the equation down, but he didn't realize that you can't do the squeeze play 7 consecutive rounds. Because someone's going to have a hand and either make you dump. So he put in 4,000 chips and have to dump.
Right.
Then he'd pick up some. But
it's one of those kids that I find that they actually watch TV and all they see is the final table play. And they try to do that throughout the whole tournament. So that way they
try to do it every hand. Right. Not even just throughout the tournament.
When you started playing again, here in the tournament circuit, did you just start playing and kind of figure out what changes were taking place, or were there any people who influenced you, or things you read, or what was kind of the process of getting back into it and making the adjustments that you're talking about?
Absolutely gun shy when I came back. I started off and I was just, like I said, I turned into a dinosaur overnight, and I just didn't adjust for the first 4 or 5 months.
Really?
And I was thinking about, talking to Daniel about it, and I thought he'd say something, We'd go out and play golf all the time, and he knew I was struggling. But I hate talking poker. Actually, I hate talking poker, with my mates. And I think he just said, Kirk, you'll figure it out, mate. You'll figure it out. And finally, I made a few changes, and I started, working it out.
Did you have a situation where you were doubting yourself? And should I not be doing this?
I know the core of me. I'll play for blood, Adam. I will. I'll play for, I'll play anybody in the world for blood. But no, I don't think I was down. I was just missing a key component. I just needed a little bit of break, and I'm back in the groove now.
Yeah, well, apparently. Yeah.
When you were living in New Zealand, you still live in New Zealand, but when you were really out of the poker scene, were you playing on the internet or keeping up with what was going on?
I didn't know until the last when poker was getting big online. I didn't even know it was on. Until I ran into the likes of Lee Nelson down there, who was a gambler as well, and is fantastic poker player, by the way, and that's when I started learning about it. But I didn't play. I didn't care. I was like, poker. I was like, oh, good God, don't get me back into this, right now. No, it's. I played a little bit when they opened in the casinos down there. That's just because I get that itch too. Because I still love poker, the core, but I love it. But no, I was basically on the schneid doing nothing for basically 7 years.
You're my kind of guy.
Yeah, it's and I can't wait. This month to be over, and I have a few opportunities to do some other things now. But I'm kind of leaning towards going back to New Zealand and just go back on the beach, and hanging out with my dog and doing a bunch of nothing. And when I run out of money again, I come back here in about another 10 years. And
if you can come for a few months a year finish second in the WPT main event,
pick up
knock off
a few
a few
million.
final tables, then
it's
that
easy.
final work.
I mean, it's an easy recipe.
Yeah, just win a couple of million. That's the first step. Do you gamble at golf?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Very poorly at the beginning.
Yeah.
Very poorly. It's I was probably back at Rio Hondo playing with like Kenny James, Richie Dunberg, and all the other thieves out there, you know. And unfortunately, when I first started playing these guys, I just want to get them play, and you have to be a good lawyer because the lawyers actually win the money. So
No, it's all negotiation.
All negotiation. Before you even tee off, you know who's going to win.
Right.
You know, and I was always fine.
It's the
I always take the
formality
worst
of
of
just
it.
playing, but
Right, you just want to get out there.
I just want to get out there playing.
I agree.
Right?
Let's go.
And they're like, I was like, okay, all right, let's go. And you know, I had no. We're after the third hole. I'm like, no shot. I'm looking to settle after the third hole. You know, and so yeah, it took me a while to figure out how to negotiate. And
What are you shooting roughly?
in the 90s.
So you shoot in the 80s?
Actually, I shoot the 90s. I'm actually pretty fair. I'm not a burglar, so
You know,
I shoot in the 90s.
I remember reading Daniel in one of his columns was saying that it's funny how everyone I play has a career day.
Yeah.
And you know, that's an education I think that we all get if we're gambling at golf, that you've got to get that negotiation straight, and you can't play for big money against someone that you're not aware of how they actually play.
I think he's fallen into the same trap when I first started playing, you know, and like he's got a bit of an ego, I don't know if you guys know that, he actually has a bit of an ego.
really, somewhat competitive.
But, yeah. But Daniel's, you know, he's a smart kid. So he's slowly turned it around into his favor. So yeah, he's good.
The World Poker Tour, I mean, you came back and you had some scores, but then the World Poker Tour 25K main event, you made it all the way to the final table, and then actually, heads up, you had a ton of chips, and the blinds in the World Poker Tour events, we keep complaining about them, are so high that it becomes this all-in fest.
Yeah.
And of course, you're up against another great player, Carlos Mortensen, so it's, you know, it's not all luck, but it's just getting the money in, and you ended up second, which is still like a $2 million payday.
You know, everybody thinks that, you know, we were probably, so-called, cut a deal or whatever, you know, but we didn't. We were basically, you know, Rochambeauing or tossing a coin,
Which is crazy,
for $2
right?
million, and I didn't mind it, you know.
Well, as long as you have $2 million coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody said, "Oh, you'll feel it in the morning, and you're just basically game for $2 million." I still haven't felt it, you know. I even asked Carlos. I said, I'll race you, you know, around the stage for $2 million if you want. And Carlos, what a class act, good guy, you know, and he's basically he's taken a lot of time off, you know.
Yeah.
He hasn't played. I think he's played one event. You know, came back and played the 50,000 horse since that. So.
Did you feel there's an advantage to you being like a semi-unknown to some degree? I mean, now there are these guys who've been on TV a lot who've become pretty well known. You've been, you know, beating these games and had success, but in a sense you're kind of under the radar.
Yeah,
at that point, not anymore, unfortunately, but at that point you were under the radar.
Yeah, I think it might have helped me, you know. But at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of these guys with the targets on their back, and I'd adapt to it. I think I adapt pretty well to anything I do, and I look what Phil Hellmuth's done. I just adapt to it, you know. A lot of people think that he, you know, everybody assumes that he just intimidates everybody, but I don't think that's the case at all. They want to beat him so bad.
Yeah, they're taking shots and he's picking them off.
Just dumping chips off, you know. And same with Mike Madison. If you just adapt to that, you know, you're gonna, you know. I think that's a huge advantage to be, you know, in most cases to be well known. A lot of people say, well, they're always coming after you. Well, you know, I think in the long run, over a course of a year's tournaments, I think it's actually helpful.
As long as you're aware of what your image is in
Exactly.
their eyes, you can manipulate that.
Yes.
You won your bracelet in stud.
Yes.
And this year at the World Series, you've made a final table in stud as well.
Nope.
No
Nope,
stud?
No, it was Hold'em, mixed Hold'em.
The half and half, the
Yeah,
half
yeah.
limit and half no limit.
Yep.
Now, it seems like no limit is taking over the world. Was that another adjustment you had to make, where just focusing on no limit and
No,
getting
I've
going on
won
that,
no
or-
limit tournaments back in, you know, the 50s. You know, when
when poker was on TV most of the world, it was black and white.
That's right.
Not colorized.
That's right. No, I was actually fortunate enough to play with Stu Unger in the main event, and Johnny Moss.
Oh wow!
So I remember when I played with Johnny in the old 2040 game at the Horseshoe, and when they were still helping him pick up his cards, and he was still in there firing away, yelling at all the dealers, you know, getting old. And
That's good stuff there.
But I remember playing with. I was fortunate enough to play with Stewie before I left, and actually knocked him out in the main event, my first main event. You know,
Oh, that's amazing.
that's pretty claim to fame. And then, as a whole, like I said back then, there's only a few guys who could actually win, and it's completely poker has changed, and I think it's changed for the better, except for the hooping and hollering. A little bit of class has gone out of it. I just don't understand these guys. They hit something, they're jumping up and down. I'm like,
we keep harping on that, but it's just crazy.
Yeah.
When I put a 2-outer on a guy yesterday, I just made sure to zip my mouth, because when you win the pot, this is one of the first things I learned in poker. When you win the pot, just shut up.
Yeah.
You know, if the guy wants to bitch a little, because that's fine, but when you win the pot, you can't be chirping and
Right.
yeah.
You know as well as I do. 10 years ago, if you would have said hoop and holler after you hit that 2-outer, you would have been lynched outside the parking lot.
You might get a boot up your ass.
You don't want to try that, the old Binions.
You would have got out of there, right? You wouldn't have got out of there.
No kidding. You mentioned Stu Unger, and you mentioned your own adjustment. I wonder what Stu Unger would feel like now, because he played this hyper-aggressive style where he was running over people, and he was a great reader of players. But even he would have to make some strong adjustments, because people were just giving in to him.
Yeah.
And
but if anybody could have done it, it'd be Stu. I mean, he's just the core of him is gamble, and he's just it's in his blood. He would have figured out a way to get around it, and he'd probably be torturing these kids. So
Could you sense his genius? Even you probably played with him late in his career.
Yeah, he was a bit. Obviously, he had a few problems with drugs and things like that, but still, he's got an aura about him. So it's like, I don't think he can tell, his right brain and left brain doesn't talk real well, but he has it, and you can sense it, that's for sure.
Kirk, you're going to relax now, head back to New Zealand at some point, and it's a long grind here at the World Series. It's such a long, grueling event, so but it's successful for you. Thanks for coming by.
1, 2, 3, first, second, third. Why not?
We're still playing. It's not over yet.
Yeah, we're all in it. I'll sign up for that.
We all advance to the next day.
1, 2, 3. I'd love it,
would
man.
be bad. But thanks for coming by.
Thanks, Kirk.
Great job,
it's
man.
a great story.
Thanks, guys.
It's great to have you back.
Cheers, man.
And,
Anytime.
I know we're going to be hearing from you a lot next couple of years in this. It's a lot of fun.
Good night, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, and join us
Cheers, guys.
tomorrow on The Scoop.
Scooby-Doo.